7 matches, 7 wins, 0 losses. That is the record Alex Eala has put together over the last 10 days, and it might be the most alarming stat line of her career. Here is why. On Friday night in Toronto, she played Katie McNally, the 70th ranked player in the world. That match took 2 hours and 39 minutes. 6 days earlier, in a final, she beat the 3rd ranked player in the world, and it took her less time to do it. Read those 2 facts next to each other and something does not add up. And then there is the 3rd number, the one that made a lot of people watching that match sit forward. Set 2. She was leading 3-2, up a set, roughly 20 minutes from a clean win. She hit a forehand, landed wrong, and called for the physio. Right ankle. Medical timeout on a hard court in the middle of a WTA 1000. She said afterward that she does not know what happened, because it happened so fast. So here is the paradox this entire video is built on. Every result on her sheet says, Alex Eala is playing the best tennis of her life. She is world number 20. She just won her first ever tour title. She has not lost a match on the North American hard courts. And at the same time, every physical signal coming off that court says something is starting to come due. Which one is telling the truth? Was that ankle a piece of bad luck? The kind that happens to every player 40 times a season and means nothing? Or was it the first thing to give way in a body that has been quietly running out of room since March? Because those are not the same story. One of them ends with a deep run at the US Open in 2 weeks. The other one ends with a withdrawal. And I am not going to guess at the answer. I am going to do something better, because we do not have to speculate about how this ends. Her own 2026 season has already run this exact experiment once. Same shape, heavy load, big result, warning signs. And that one already has an ending. So which is it? A player peaking, or a body starting to send the bill? Almost nobody remembers what happened the last time, which is strange, because it happened this April. On Monday, she was lifting a trophy in Washington. By Thursday, she was on a hard court in Toronto, playing a WTA 1000. Nobody handed her a recovery week for winning. That is not how this sport works, and it is the part of professional tennis that fans consistently underestimate. So let me set the table properly, because the last 10 days of her life have been genuinely absurd. Alex Eala is 21 years old, left-handed, from the Philippines. As of August 3rd, she is ranked 20th in the world. That date matters because it is the day everything changed. She won the Mubadala DC Open in Washington, a WTA 500, and in the final she beat Jessica Pegula, the top seed and the world number 3. That was the first WTA Tour title of her career. It was also the first WTA Tour title in the history of Philippine women's tennis. Nobody had done it before her. Now, if you have ever won anything, you know what should happen next. You go home. You sleep. You give your body 48 hours to understand what it just did. She flew to Toronto, the National Bank Open, a WTA 1000, the tier directly below a Grand Slam. She went in seeded 25th, got a first-round bye, and beat Alicia Parks 6-1, 4-6, 6-2, 3 sets. Then 2 days later, she played McNally. 3 sets again, 2 hours and 39 minutes. And here is the number that reframes all of it. She is 7-0 on the North American hard court swing. Undefeated. 7 consecutive matches. Which sounds like a dream and functions like a treadmill, because every single one of those wins put another match on her legs. Now, let me tell you why this is not just a nice problem to have. The US Open main draw starts in about 2 weeks. That is the first Grand Slam of her life she will walk into as a real seed, with a real draw protection, with a real expectation of reaching the second week. It is the biggest opportunity of her career, and it is 14 days away. So the timing here is almost cruel. She has arrived at the exact moment she has been climbing toward, and she has arrived on tired legs. And I want to be specific about how tired, because the scale of what she has done in 12 months does not show up in a highlight reel. In March of 2025, Alex Eala was ranked 140th in the world. By the end of 2025, she was 50th. Today, she is 20th. Think about what those numbers actually describe. A player ranked 140 spends her year in qualifying draws and small events. A player ranked 20 is in every main draw, every week, against players who make her earn every point, which means the volume of high-level tennis Eala has played in the last 12 months is greater than the rest of her career put together. Her body has never done this before. Not once. There is no previous season she can compare it to. And this is the trap that catches almost every young player who breaks through. And it is the least fair thing about the sport. Success does not buy you rest. Success takes rest away. Win more, and you play more. Play more, and you win more, and you play more. There is no off-ramp on that road that does not involve losing. She said it herself in Toronto. After the McNally match, asked how she was feeling, she admitted she is tired from playing back-to-back tournaments. That is a 21-year-old, 4 days after the best week of her career, telling a room full of reporters that she is running low. And I want to know what you would do here because I have been going back and forth on it for 2 days. If you were on her team right now, with the US Open 14 days out and a winning streak on the line, do you keep playing? Or do you pull her? Tell me in the comments. And stick around, because by the end of this video, you are going to have a much better basis for that answer than anybody in the tennis media currently does. So if something is going to break, we are going to find out at the worst possible moment. Now let me take you back onto that court in Toronto minute by minute, because the ankle is not actually the interesting part. Set 1, 6, 3. Comfortable. Break of serve, control of the baseline. A 20th ranked player doing 20th ranked player things against someone ranked 70th. Set 2, she breaks again. 3 games to 2. She is about 20 minutes from a straightforward win. Then she hits a forehand, lands wrong, and calls for the physio. Right ankle. What happens over the next 40 minutes is the part I have not been able to stop thinking about. But before we get there, I want to sit on the first layer of this, because it is already strange on its own. Katie McNally is the 70th ranked player in the world. She is a good player. She is not, on paper, a player who takes 2 hours and 39 minutes off the reigning champion of Washington. 50 ranking places is a real gap. And 6 days earlier, Eala had gone through Jessica Pegula, 3rd in the world, in a final, in less time. So the first question is simple. If her level is high enough to beat the world number 3 in a final, why did the world number 70 drag her across 2 hours and 39 minutes on a Friday night in Toronto? You can say match quality varies. Everybody has a scrappy day. Fine. Except that was her second 3-set match of the week. Parks went 3 sets. McNally went 3 sets. 2 matches in Toronto, both dragged into deciders, against players ranked well below her. Which brings us to layer 2. And this is where it stops being about tennis and starts being about physiology. Here is the thing about rolled ankles that people who have not played a lot of sport tend to get wrong. An ankle does not roll because you hit the ball hard. An ankle rolls because your foot arrives a fraction of a second later than the rest of you. That is it. That is the whole mechanism. Your upper body commits to a shot. Your foot is supposed to be planted underneath it, and it is not quite there yet. So the load lands on the outside edge instead of flat, and the joint goes. Late feet are not a technique problem. Late feet are a fatigue signature. It is one of the first things that goes when a body is running on empty, and it happens so fast that the player almost never feels it coming, which is precisely what Eala described. She said she hit a forehand. She landed kind of wrong. She called the physio. And she did not know what happened because it happened so fast. So the second question, is the ankle the cause of what went wrong in that match? Or is the ankle just the first place a tired body chose to give way? Now, layer 3. And this is the part that actually worries me, because it has nothing to do with the injury at all. Watch what happens after the timeout. She had the physio work on her, she got back up, and she immediately lost her serve. To love. 0 points. McNally broke her back, and the set was level. Then they traded holds. Then they traded breaks. And Eala got to 5 games to 4 with her serve to close out the match. 5-4. Her serve. Match on her racket. She loses it to love. 0 points again. McNally breaks her, takes the set 7-5, and a match that should have ended in 90 minutes goes to a decider. Now I want you to understand what a serve-out game means for a player at her level. This is not a coin flip. A top 20 player closing out a match against a player ranked 70th wins that game the overwhelming majority of the time. It is the single most practiced situation in professional tennis. She did not win a point in it. So the third question, and it is the one nobody in the coverage has asked. When a player loses a serve-out game to love, 20 minutes after a medical timeout, is that the ankle? Is that the legs? Or is that a brain that has been on a tennis court for 10 straight days and has nothing left to give in the exact moment it needs the most? Because here is where this gets genuinely ugly. Every one of those answers points to the same treatment. Rest. That is the only medicine there is. There is no supplement, no taping job, no physio miracle that replaces days off. And rest is the one thing she cannot afford right now. Because pulling out of Toronto means walking away from a WTA 1000 while she is undefeated on the swing. Skipping Cincinnati means arriving at the US Open cold, underplayed, with 2 weeks of rust against players who have been competing. And playing all of it means arriving in New York on legs that are already asking for help in the second set, against the 70th ranked player in the world. There is no third option. Every road costs her something she just spent 8 months earning. Because every ranking point that got her to number 20 came from not resting. So the thing that built her is the thing that is grinding her down, and there is no way to separate the two. The problem has no solution. Unless the problem is not the one everybody thinks it is. Here is the thing everybody gets backwards about tennis rankings. A ranking is not a reward. A ranking is a bill. And the tour collects it in matches. Move from 50 to 20, and you do not just win more. You stop getting something you never knew you were being given. Let me explain what I mean, because once you see this, you cannot unsee it. Think about the schedule of a player ranked 50th in the world. She enters roughly the same tournaments as a player ranked 20th. Same calendar, same cities, same flights. On paper, they have identical workloads. They do not have identical workloads. Not even close. Because the player ranked 50th loses in the first round a lot. She loses in the second round a lot. She plays 1 match, sometimes 2, and then she has 4 days with nothing to do. She flies to the next city early. She practices, she sleeps, her body absorbs the work and repairs itself. And then she does it again. Nobody calls that rest. Everybody calls it losing. But look at what it actually is. A first-round exit is 3 days of recovery. A second-round exit is a week at home. Going straight into main draws instead of grinding through qualifying is 2 fewer matches every single week. For her entire career before this season, Alex Eala's schedule was being regulated automatically. Not by her team, not by a load management plan. By her own losses. Her body never had to learn how to break, because the tour was breaking for her. And then this happened. 7-0 on the North American hard court swing. Do you see it now? That number is not just a winning streak. That number means that since the end of July, not one single match has given her a day off. She won in Washington on Monday, so she flew to Toronto. She won on Thursday, so she played on Friday. She won on Friday, so she plays again. The reward for winning is another match. The reward for that match is another match. She is not tired because she is playing badly. She is tired because she has not lost enough. Losing was her recovery system. And on August 3rd, she lost access to it. Sit with that for a second. Because it changes the entire question we have been asking for the last 10 minutes. We have spent this whole video assuming the problem is workload. It is not. Her workload this week is completely normal for a top 20 player. Utterly ordinary. Dozens of women on this tour did roughly the same thing in the same 10 days and nobody made a video about their ankles. The unusual thing is not the load. The unusual thing is that Alex Eala has never been a top 20 player before. This is week 1 of a bill she has never received. And I want to ask you something here, because I think this is genuinely arguable, and I would rather hear you disagree than nod along. Does that reframe hold for you? Because there is a reasonable counterposition, which is that a 21-year-old body is a 21-year-old body, that fatigue is fatigue regardless of what you call it, and that dressing up a warning sign as a growing pain is exactly how players end up with stress fractures in September. If that is where you land, say so below. I read those, and this particular disagreement is the most interesting one in tennis right now. Because if the twist is right, then what happened in Toronto is not a red flag. It is the sound of a player being charged the actual price of being good, for the first time in her life. And that price is not optional. Every single player who arrives in the top 20 gets handed this exact invoice. It arrives in a different month, in a different city, attached to a different body part. But it always arrives. It always looks like a crisis from the outside. And it almost never is one. Now, that is a nice theory. So let me show you 3 pieces of evidence that say it is actually what happened, starting with one from her own season that already ran this exact experiment. Go back to March. Indian Wells, 4th round. Then Miami, 4th round. 2,000 level events, back-to-back, deep runs in both. And on March 16th, the WTA released the rankings, and Alex Eala was 29th in the world. Career high. Then the tour moved to clay. Linz, round of 16, loss. Stuttgart, round of 32, loss. Madrid, round of 64, loss. Rome, a competitive one against Elena Rybakina, still a loss. And then Roland Garros, 1st round, out. By the end of May, she was ranked 37th. So no, this fear is not paranoid. It is not internet doom posting. Her own season has done this before. In exactly this shape. Heavy load, career high, collapse. Which means the honest thing to say is that the worry in the title of this video has real precedent, and anyone telling you otherwise is not paying attention. But here is the detail that changes everything. And it is a detail about time. That collapse happened between tournaments. And it lasted 10 weeks. She hit her peak on March 16th. And she did not recover until the middle of June. 10 weeks of losing while her body and her game caught up to where her ranking had already gone. Now put that next to Toronto. Because Toronto was the same collapse. Identical, structurally. She got hurt. She lost her serve to Love. She failed to serve out the match at 5-4, to Love. She lost the entire second set after leading by a set and a break. That is a collapse. That is the same thing April did to her, compressed. And then she broke McNally's serve in the first game of the 3rd set, and served the match out. 6-4. 10 weeks in April. Roughly 20 minutes in August. That is the whole argument. Her recovery window has gone from 10 weeks to 20 minutes, and the August version happened while she was injured. On the same court, in the same match, against an opponent with all the momentum. There is no stat on the WTA website that measures that. There is no column for it. But if you are trying to figure out whether a body and a mind are breaking or hardening, it is a far better indicator than anything that does have a column. Evidence number 2 is the injury itself, and how loudly it argues against the panic. She finished the match. She won the deciding set. She advanced to the round of 16 of a WTA 1000. Afterward, she said she rolled it, that luckily there was nothing wrong with it, that there were no serious problems, and that she has a great team who will help her recover. A genuinely damaged ankle does not let you win a 3rd set on a hard court 40 minutes later. It just does not. The gap between the headline and the reality here is the gap between an injury and a scare. Which brings me to the 3rd piece, and it is the one I keep coming back to. Look at who she beat in these 10 days. Jessica Pegula in the Washington final. Then Alicia Parks. Then Katie McNally. 3 straight American opponents. On American and Canadian hard courts. And 2 of those 3 went to a deciding set. So those 7 wins were not 7 easy afternoons. A large chunk of the court time in this streak came from matches she was in danger of losing. And she did not lose any of them. That means she is currently winning on something other than clean ball striking. When her timing left her, when her ankle went, when her serve deserted her at 5-4, she still found a way through. That is not talent. Talent was never her problem. Talent beat Swiatek in Miami in 2025. That is durability. And durability is built by exactly one thing. Weeks like this one. So come back to the 2 numbers we started with. 7-0 is not a warning. 2 hours and 39 minutes is not a collapse. They are the same phenomenon described from 2 different angles. A player is operating at a workload she has never carried, and she is winning anyway. So, is Alex Eala's body at breaking point? No. Every player who arrives here gets handed this exact week. What separates the ones who stay from the ones who slide back down is not whether it happens. It is what they do in the 3 weeks after. But I want to be honest about the condition attached to that answer, because it is not unconditional, and anyone who tells you it is has something to sell you. The answer holds if the scheduling decisions are right. And the stretch in front of her is the most brutal sequence the WTA calendar can produce. Toronto, then Cincinnati, then the US Open. 3 events. 3 surfaces of intensity. Almost no gaps. So, here is what to actually watch. And it is not her ankle. Forget the ankle. It is her average match length as she goes deeper in Toronto. If she is still spending 2.5 hours to beat players ranked outside the top 50 inches the quarterfinals, that is your signal. And watch whether her team quietly trims anything before New York. Because here is where she stands. She goes into the US Open ranked 20th in the world, on the longest winning streak of her career, having just won her first tour title, with a body that got publicly tested in front of everyone on Friday night and held. 12 months ago, she was ranked outside the top 100, and nobody was arguing about her workload, because nobody had to. Now she is inside the top 20, and the sport is asking whether she can handle being there. That question gets answered in the next 3 weeks. And those 3 weeks start right now. So I am going to be tracking all of it. Every match length, every scheduling decision, every word out of her press conferences between here and New York. And the moment we actually know the answer, whichever way it goes, that video goes up on this channel. If you want to be here when we find out rather than reading about it 3 days late, that is what the subscribe button is for. One last thing before you go, and I want a real answer. If you were on her team tonight, what do you do? Play Cincinnati and keep the momentum, or pull her and protect her for the Open? Put it in the comments. I do not think there is a safe answer, and I want to see which risk you would rather take.